people of Reddit who are anti-weed. Why? My friends that smoke make it their entire identity. They used to have hobbies and were passionate about things. Now they're content with whatever and everything has to be about smoking. My friends and I used to smoke weed every day and then do stuff. I stopped smoking when smoking became the thing we were doing. If that makes sense, Took me fucking years to shake off the years of weed I smoked. It's all personality. Not everyone that drinks becomes an alcoholic, but as a young kid, I definitely was fed the line that it's not addictive and in a weird way, good for you. Lots of pluses, but really did take over my life and personality. For me, I think it became really apparent when I'm working on something in my free time and realize how much more I get done when I don't smoke. I still smoke regularly, but not until I'm sure I don't need to utilize my mind for anything for the rest of the day. Yeah, I smoked weed all through high school, pretty much daily, and I wish I never had. It absolutely flattened my personality and ambition, and I don't think I've ever been the same since, despite not smoking anymore. Same. I feel like I let it ruin my life in a lot of ways, and it's taken me years to get back on track. I hate thinking about how I would be if I didn't become addicted to it. Edit to add link that helped me when I first quit. Addiction cannabis. Eucla Health Cannabis. Eucla Health Cannabis, research at around 8 men in. He says there is a 9 chance that someone trying cannabis would develop cannabis use disorder. I was a heavy smoker for 6 years. Towards the end, I was going through one once every 2 weeks. Cannabis numbed me from my mental health issues. Any mind-altering substance can aggravate pre-existing mental instability, and weed certainly did for me. My problem with weed culture is that people who are heavy cannabis users think it is completely normal to smoke every day, to depend on this substance whenever they experience hardship. It is a very unhealthy habit that is entirely normalized. If you have a bad day or a bad interaction, and your first instinct is, I'm going to have a shot of vodka that will help, you are not allowing yourself to process your feelings at all. It's the same thing for weed, but no one talks about it. Hard agree with this. My partner stopped weed, and now he's going through a lot of emotional turmoil and is depressed. I told him that he's finally allowing himself to feel his emotions, and that to get over it is to get through them, and that I'll be there for him as he goes through it. Very eye-opening. But it's best to go through your own feelings and not numb them. Weed culture is really annoying, and my friends who peer pressure me into smoking it, in spite of my repeated reminders that it doesn't agree with me, are equally annoying. Go ahead yourself, just leave me out of it. Bro, I was searching for this answer. Friends or people who smoke and try to get you into it are super fucking annoying. Some of my friends are still trying to get me to smoke one even after years of me saying no to every offer. No, I'm good. But, bro, it's like the earth. It's like organic and shit. Okay, still no. Every conversation. I used to really love getting stoned, but eventually it got to the point where it just made me sad that I felt like I had to get stoned before I watched a movie, or played a game, or had a nice meal. I hated that I had a real fear that if I stopped I wouldn't enjoy those things anymore. January 1, 2022, I decided to give it up, ate my last edible, and didn't order anymore. I was undoubtedly a little more a jerk the first week or so, but then I caught myself laughing at a show and had this introspective moment of clarity where I realized I was still watching and enjoying movies. I was still enjoying movies. I was still enjoying food and game. It's been just over a year now, and I don't really miss it at all, and I just kind of feel dumb about how important it used to be to me. I miss the ritual of packing a bowl and the act of puffing on a pipe, but I don't miss being high, truly. I still have dreams where I smoke cigarettes, though I don't think that will ever go away, and I haven't smoked them in 5 years. Don't smoke cigarettes, kids! I quit cigarettes a year ago and still crave them, where I eat too much. I thought I'd be over the hump after a year, but I sometimes still get cravings very similar to when I was still a smoker and hadn't had a cigarette all day yet. It's freaking brutal sometimes. I'm not against weed itself. I'm against people smoking it in the downstairs history hall bathrooms and making the entire downstairs smell like weed and then complaining about how no one likes them. Yep, I'm not against weed at all and have smoked it myself, but what smells good to some people is an overpowering, awful, skunky smell to others. I hate the smell too. My next door neighbor likes to smoke his weed when I have washing outside. If I don't get it in really quick, my work uniform ends up stinking of it and needing washed again. 'Cause it's stinky, don't care if others do it, just not in my face. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Like I don't care if you smoke, but God, take a fucking shower. I don't want to be in close proximity because you smell like you just got done with a skunk orgy. I'm against marijuana use for people with a still developing brain. There are many studies to show why. Personally, I find the lazy stoner type to be true in some cases, and I find those people to be very annoying. I have some friends and family like this who stay high most of the day. It's a minority, though I am sure, so that doesn't really inform my general opinion on weed, but it is something I steer clear from when developing new relationship. Edit. Yes, feel the same way for drinking. I dated a guy who smoked constantly. I was pretty young and naive, and he told me it helped with his aging and arthritis in his hands. We used to go for dates, but after an hour or two he'd eventually be like nudging me to go back to his place. His laundry machine broke, so we went to my place to do laundry. Then, after he put the laundry in, it was ugh. I'm bored here. Let's go back to my house and hang for 45 miles, and we'll come back. So I drove all the way across town again. This happened all the time. I broke up for other reasons, but it wasn't until after the breakup that I realized he was always pushing to go home because he was sobering up and needed to get high again. He could buy joints and bring them with him, but he had such a tolerance. He needed 2 or 3 bong rips, so joints weren't enough. I have personally made a decision to not date people that smoke frequently. I'm against marijuana use for people with a still developing brain, this right here. I am pro-legalization and have my medical card, which has been a godsend for nerve pain and padsley, but if your brain is still developing, no way. And the lazy stoner thing is true. I do not drink alcohol, but I smoke weed, and if I smoke every day, over time I realize I turn into a sack of shit and don't enjoy or even do my hobbies. I'm a painter and avid yogi. It's great for what it needs to do, but it's taken me a long time and a lot of growing up to get to the place of accepting and understanding moderation and regular tolerance breaks. Not anti-weed per se, but the pro-weed is acting like there's no side effects, and it's this completely harmless thing which everyone will respond well to. That's the general consensus I get from very pro-weed people. I'm not anti-weed, but I hate the smell. I don't want to deal with the smell in a public area, same with cigarette smoking. Yes, some people have swung too far to the other end of the spectrum. It's not the root of all evil like they claimed in the 70s, 2000s. It is way less addictive and problematic than tobacco and alcohol. It does help with medical conditions like seizure disorders and chronic pain. But it's not a miracle drug that cures every illness, and it is problematic in some cases. It messes with developing brains. Teens shouldn't be using it. It messes with sperm counts. Men who are trying for a baby should probably lay off the weed. Smoking or vaping anything is bad for your lungs. I get that edibles are more inconsistent, but that's really the way you should be going if you want to protect your lungs. And to add to it all, we don't know all the downsides it may have due to the long-term ban on even researching it. Anyone who is talking about weed with either bad or good extremes is wrong. The reality is somewhere in the middle. Anti-weed, nope. Anti-smoke, definitely. The smell and the smoke are both triggers for asthma and allergies. It's just as bad as cigarettes to me. I'd like to see non-smoking forms of weed legalized. Then people can consume weed legally, but everyone else doesn't have to smell it. Ah, the asthma and allergies didn't come to mind. Awesome comment. I'm only anti-weed for my personal consumption only. Why? Because I've smoked and eaten enough of it to put a down payment on 2 houses. I currently own 2 houses. I currently own only one house, so I've decided to not use weed or any drugs moving forward to try and reclaim my life. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes. I'm done talking about weed for the day. Edit 2. Best comment on Reddit for Jan 17, 2023. Holy shit, thank you everyone. Exactly. Other people are welcome to smoke, but I have an addiction that's crippling my opportunities. Weed is bad for me. I worked quite a bit as a teenager. Multiple jobs, tons of overtime. From 14 to 22, I'm sure I made well over $100, all while living at home with very few bills to pay. What do I have to show for it? Years of beating the shit out of my lungs and liver. Some of it helped pay for university, but the rest I smoked, drank and ate. Same, except I'm one of the few whose body decided to start rejecting. I now get physically sick It also started messing with my brain chemistry. It was a fun decade, but it can longer continue. The most anti-weed I am, for others, is to try and educate that there are indeed possible downsides to weed other than being lazy. Chess is no joke and becoming much more common than most think. Edit. I get it. People who smoke weed tend to get offended when someone says anything bad about it. Doesn't mean HS isn't real just because you haven't heard of it. It is very real and very horrifying to experience. It's not like I'm saying, if you smoke, you're gonna get it. I smoked heavily for over 10 years before developing it. I think weed is overall still great. Here is a post with some links about it. They're still not known about it, mostly theories. But I can say with certainty it is real. I have an intelligent, awesome grandson who will probably never move out of his mom's apartment for the same reason. I'm for legalizing it, but I'm definitely against the normalization and minimizing the negative aspects. No, you don't drive better when high. No, kids and teenagers shouldn't be allowed to get high. No, kids and teenagers shouldn't be allowed to get high. No, you don't need to be high in order to enjoy normal things. No, it's not somehow better to be high at work than to be drunk at work. Anyone who thinks they drive better high should probably not be driving. I am anti-second-hand smoke, regardless they are from tobacco or weed. I don't care if anyone smokes anything, but I care about the air I breathe, and I don't want to smell second-hand weed, which smells horrible and is bad for my lung. If you want to smoke, you should smoke in designated areas or your private place. Do what you want, but I don't like the idea of being high. I don't like the smell or smoking anything. I'm fine with adults using it around other adults. I have issues with people using around kids who have no say. I also really worry when my teenage students are self-medicating because their families won't get them therapy or counseling. I'm not anti-weed and I think it should be legalized, but I hate it when people does this magic cure for everything that you can't get addicted to. Telling someone with mental illness that they should just smoke weed is dangerous. Even though it can help, it's easy to latch onto the feelings and make it an emotional addiction. Weed can also cause psychosis and lethargy, so it's definitely not as great as Reddit makes it to be. However, I also believe it's safer than alcohol, which is why I think it should be legalized. Yes, I've seen friends who started with weed. Helps my anxieties turn into friends who need to be high all the time, or they can't relax. At that point, yes, I'm viewing you not able to go more than an hour or two without getting high as an addiction. Anyone who thinks putting smoke into their lungs on a regular basis isn't damaging their lungs is on a big boat cruising denial. I don't care how you fuck your body up as long as it doesn't affect me, but it does add to the overall health care burden. Research shows that smoking marijuana causes chronic bronchitis, and marijuana smoke has been shown to injure the cell linings of the large airways, which could explain why smoking marijuana leads to symptoms such as chronic cough, phlegm production, wheeze, and acute bronchitis. Effects of marijuana smoking on the lung. An Thoraxoc, 2013, teen through 139, 47. Howden Mel Norton E. Pulmonary effects of marijuana inhalation. Expert Rev Respire Med 2011 51 87 92. And there are people allergic to the substance. I, for one, am one of those poor souls, and I live in a legalized state. You have no idea how many people think I make up the fact I'm allergic, and they still want me to try some. I don't feel like anaphylaxis today, thank you. Because it's legal, people do it everywhere. My life has gotten much harder to live because of legal weed. I tried to go to a movie the other day, and someone had apparently smoked a joint before coming into the theater. I had to leave. I've walked into clouds coming out of grocery stores, sitting in parks, and someone has lit up upwind. I have some problem with cigarettes too, but nothing like the weed smokers. I wear mask shopping sometimes now, just because it gives me a little more protection. I'm constantly having to watch for smokers now because they just don't care. It's legal now, and I should just get over it. I physically can't. I've heard the argument that mostly people don't drive high. They just want to lounge around and eat. I've seen enough high drivers and their laissez-faire attitude towards other drivers. Defense driving is a must, and it's hard to predict them. I have a sister-in-law that needs weed to drown out the garbage taste from long COVID, and it's the only way she can eat. And a mother-in-law that takes it for cancer pain. It has benefits, but most people just want to push the benefits and not look at any of the risks. South Park put it best. It makes you okay with being bored and not doing anything, when you could instead improve yourself and push your limits and follow your dreams. Same as TikTok, phone games, and masturbation. All fine in moderation, but it's all too easy to waste your whole day with them. I don't understand what addiction is, but my experience is what everyone else's will be too. Not really anti-weed per se, but I think that weed's current reputation of being mostly harmless is way overblown to the point of being a problem. Recreational weed is a mostly harmless thing to do once you both are done developing mid-20s. B. Have your shit together professionally and financially. If you don't meet these two criteria, that stuff runs a real risk of fucking you and tear your life up. People should really be more aware and mindful of this as the legalization floodgates open instead of treating it as reefer madness. Phew. Yes, there has historically been a lot of lies and deception, giving weed a worse reputation than it deserves. But that doesn't mean that all negatives are propaganda. It's not a black and white issue, and treating it as such is actively harmful. Edit. As pointed out in some replies, weed is not inherently safe if you pass both conditions. I'm saying that any amount of weed brings a disproportionate amount of risk if either is not met. If you can live a full, productive life and smoke weird, great. But a lot of people smoke weed to cope with being lazy and living unfulfilled lives. It fucking stinks. 13th comment down before I saw someone who appears to be anti-weed. I'm apparently allergic to it. Also, I want to breathe clean air. Secondhand smoke is not something I signed up for. It makes my lawn look ugly. It smells terrible. Smoked it the best part of 10 years. Quit when my wife got pregnant. I don't miss it at all. Basically, it is a fast-forward button for life. Got time to kill, nothing to do. Well, here is some weed, and now the time flies by. You remember very little. Your ideas, if you write them down, turn out to be pretty poor, but it feels earth-shattering at the time. I don't miss the anxiety of having to smoke every night, of worrying about people knowing I am high, coughing phlegm all the time. The smell, papers, the cost, dealing with dealers. It's dope, and now I look at it, I was a dope for smoking it for so long. It's definitely addictive. I smoke weed for context. It doesn't really do anything for me anymore. If you want to smoke weed on the weekends with your friends or family to relax, sure. But don't make it a daily habit. It fucks with your sleep. It fucks with your sense of smell. It fucks with your taste buds. You will cough black shit up. And yes, it is absolutely 100 without a doubt addicting. Insomnia, chills, irritability, lack of appetite, nausea, and an impending sense of doom are all things you can experience when you stop smoking.